Go.
Hi guys, welcome to another session for DojoLIVE. Today we're having KP Naidu. He's the CTO for Amava. We're talking today about managing an engineering team at a startup. Thank you for joining.
Well, that should be an interesting conversation.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh, by the way, you forgot to mention that we also got Tulio Ziragusa in LA. Thank you, Tulio, as ever, for
hey guys.
And then of course Mariel. Now you're good. I know you're getting nervous, Mariel, because this is the first time ever on the air. You know,
my first time.
Sip a cup of coffee. Cool. All right, guys. So as Mariel said,
hey, Mariel, you're in Chihuahua, right?
Yes.
Is that you're in Chihuahua? Okay,
yeah,
cool.
Chihuahua.
Right.
Nice.
And as Mariel said, we're going to be speaking with KP Naidu, the CTO at Amava, and let's just get it started with you, KP. Welcome to the show, KP. We appreciate your being here.
Thank you for having me.
Okay, absolutely. It's our pleasure. So, KP, tell us something. We'd like to start off by two things. Start with you and Amava. So let's talk about that, and then we'll move on to your chosen topic of the day, which is interesting.
Sure, absolutely. So a little bit about me. I've been around in technology for about 30 years. I've worked in academia. I have a master's in artificial intelligence from the University of Edinburgh, and I've worked in technology for a very long time. I used to be vice president of Sun Microsystems, running their global data center infrastructure and then running their data center practice. And then I've worked at a bunch of startups, worked in local government. And in fact, I've visited Mexico a number of times to work with some of the local governments in Mexico as well. So that's a little bit about me. And right now I'm CTO of our company, Amava. And what we do is we're helping people who are post-career find their next gig, if you like, or what they want to do next. So around trying to help people figure out what activities they want to do, if they want to go volunteer, they want to do something fun. So that's what we try and help people to do. So discover what they want to do next. So predominantly people who are, somewhere in the 45 plus age range to all the way to 70 and 75. And that's what we're focused on at the moment at Amava.
Thank you so much, KP. I appreciate it. So 45 and plus. So probably Tulio and myself will be there soon, right? I mean, we are way over.
Yes.
Okay.
It's the application for once you've broken free of the overlords.
Well, sort of, but in a way. But it's also for people who are trying to find a little bit of balance in their life. They want to do something a little bit different, add an element of, say, giving back, or do a fun project for a while, so that they're not just focused 60, 70 hours at work, right? So they want to do something different. So we do get people who are either about to retire or who retired, but we also get people who are at work and who are looking for something new to do.
Excellent.
Okay, so that's I'm personally interested in learning more about that, because it's always like, I want to do more giving back, and it's like trying to balancing it all seems to be impossible. So so first of all, let me before I ask how does it work, how does it solve that, I'm curious first to ask, what gave birth to this idea? How did this come about? Like, the guys are crazy sitting around saying, "Hey, how did this happen?"
Right. So So we've been working at this for about 3 years. We launched, in a sense, at the beginning of October, the end of September this year. But before that, we've been working for 2.5 to 3 years before that, and doing our research. And as it turns out, there's just in the U.S. alone, close to actually over 14,000 people enter the Social Security rolls every day. And there's about 100 million people who are above the age of 55. There's 1 billion people worldwide. And nobody really cares for this population. I mean, we're a very youth-centered culture. So everybody's interested in the 18 to 24-year-old, right? Nobody's interested in the 50-plus-year-old person. But the reality is, 50%, 50 cents of every dollar which is spent, discretionary spend worldwide, is done by people who are over the age of 50. So, this is an extremely wealthy group of people. And they really want to do something meaningful and worthwhile. So this is, the tail end of the baby boomers, if you like. So that was the genesis of this. And, it is also for myself and for my CEO, who's, my co-founder, that was our push, if you like. So.
Very cool. I think it's very timely and very much needed. So, is this your first startup, or no? You say you've had a few different startups.
No, I've had a few startups before, but so this we've been doing this for literally. I think this month it'll be 3 years.
Okay, fantastic. So I know that there's a topic you chose for today, which is very appropriate when you're building a product like this.
Right.
Right.
Who was the topic, Mariel?
The topic is managing an engineering team at a startup.
Okay, so that's a big challenge.
Whoa.
So why did you choose this as a topic of conversation? I'm assuming you've gone through this a few times. Please tell us what's.
Yeah, so a couple of things was, as I was building teams, I built a lot of teams, but at larger organizations, you usually come in with an organization which is already formed. You come in and there's a team which is already available, and then you're trying to kind of manage through that and manage that team or take that team in a new direction. At a startup, basically you're creating from scratch. I was the first engineer. I was the only engineer on the team. And then you're starting to build a team. And I realized that the way you go about building a team at a startup is completely different from the way you go about building a team in a larger organization. And the challenges are quite different. You have no processes. You have no, the technology is all up in the air. You're trying to literally create things as you go along. And so it's very, very important to make sure that the team, when you start building them, that you start building them in the right way, right from the ground up, because that is going to actually help you to be successful at your startup, or it can lead to a lot of conflict, which is very difficult to manage in a small organization.
So if you had to break down the key things that you've kind of figured out work really well, what are they?
So in my mind, some of the key things were, as I was thinking about this, right? So it's very easy. In fact, it's very, how should I put it? It's very attractive that we focus purely on the technology, that we focus on, here's the code we want to write, this is the features we want to do. But what I realized is that the technology is there. Absolutely, it's important. But if there isn't a focus on how the team gets built from the beginning, then very often, you can focus on the technology. But as an engineering leader, then I have to spend a lot of time actually managing a lot of the interfaces between people, people kind of working at cross purposes with each other. And that is something which you don't have the luxury in a small startup where you expect everybody to be going, at 100 miles an hour. And so, yes, we were focused on the technology, but I did spend a lot of time, I would say almost 50% of my time in the beginning, actually building the team culture and building the team, focusing on the team formation.
Yeah, that's interesting. Look, I've come from big companies myself, right? So those teams are different. You're usually not building something from scratch. You're doing a lot of iteration or changes. I call it turning the knobs, right?
Right.
In a startup, you have to build the knobs from scratch. And a lot of organizations end up hiring guys who were like in IT services, which are not prepared to do that. That's one of the things we've discovered as Nearsoft is that technology companies want guys who can translate ideas and build something from scratch, and who are adults who can be self-motivated. So how do you? We've done it by adopting a democratic approach to it, with a freedom-based organization. Mm-hmm. How are you getting that done today that's working? What are some of the best practices in getting people to be motivated on their own?
Yeah, so, a couple of things which I focused on right in the beginning was, talking about the team culture to start with, and then we'll talk about the team formation. So team culture, right from the beginning, we said everybody has got skills which are important. So it's my idea or my skill is not more important than another person's ideas or skills. What is important is what we want to achieve from a business perspective. What is the feature, or what is the function, or what's the business objective which we want to meet? And then the technology, in a sense, is a tool to get us to that point. So that is the kind of the focus which we went to, right? So that then I spent a lot of time explaining to the team what we were trying to do as a business, and why we were trying to do that, and why a particular feature or why a particular function was important, and how we were kind of thinking about it. And the reason for doing that is then, first of all, it acknowledges that the engineers whom we are hiring, they have expertise. And then we say, okay, I make them part of the process to actually go and say, yeah, you have this expertise. I want your ideas to how we can achieve this objective.
Great. So I'm curious to hear from our own engineer. We have an engineer who's with us, Marielle. She's, Carlos and I are not engineers, although we do take credit for our little chatbot that we created. We'll introduce that in just a minute. But I'd love to hear from Marielle, because she's on the ground working with building a product every day, and she's mostly on the QA and testing side. Do you have any questions for KP, and as it relates to culture and building the team? What that you can shine some light on?
I actually have two questions regarding culture. You first said that you spend almost like 50% of your time like looking at that, working on that. I know culture is a very important part of building a team. Do you have any guidelines or any role models that you're following whenever you're like trying to set up an engineering team? Like, what are you looking for, culturally speaking?
Sure,
for those
absolutely.
teams?
So I think if I were to take one thing which we focused on right in the beginning, is very often in a team, and particularly when you have engineers are, they look at somebody who's senior and they say that this person probably knows everything, and I'm not going to argue with that person. That is a very dangerous, in my view, very dangerous kind of approach or view for an engineer to have. Because what that does is they become conditioned right from the beginning to not question anything which I tell them, right? So first of all, a lot of engineers, and particularly when they see somebody, in my case, for example, they see somebody who's like 30 years of experience, they start off saying, sir, and, there's this deference, right? So this whole thing.
They go the formal way.
Yes, and also there's a huge deference that, whatever you say, it's as if, your words are, written in gold. And the first thing I said was, I'm not sir. Please do not call me that. Right? Because those words are very important. It's like, take that out. It is important. When we're discussing something around engineering, we're all equal. And so we set that, and we all have ideas. I'm going to express my ideas. I'm going to tell you why I'm thinking about a particular idea in this way, but I expect them to come back with their criticisms, everything else, and I encourage that, and we'd actually go work that. So that is one of the key things. I mean, today my engineers will challenge me every day, and I love it, because that is what helps to make sure that we don't have bad product.
Yeah. I completely agree. That's speaking from my side, from my project, that's something that my team really looks for. Challenging everything, like
right.
because you never know. You might give an idea to someone else. And my next question is regarding that, the quality that you can bring to the team, to the project. I work as a QA for one of intercept teams. In your experience, or the way that you build up the teams, which role is the QA part of the team playing? Like, do you guys specifically look for QAs to be part of the team, or is it like a separate team for doing the quality?
Yeah, very good.
How does that work?
Good question. Very good question. And this is so important. So we always include QA in our team meetings. Our QA engineer is part of the team. He is not separate. He sits in on all the meetings. In fact, the way I kind of organize it is I tell my QA, this is what is expected of the product. And you have to work with the developers to make sure that whatever they're doing meets this requirement. So QA is, in a sense, front and center in terms of how we're delivering stuff. QA to my mind is very important, and I never like to separate them out and say, okay, we'll talk to QA later on. No, QA is part of the discussion right from the beginning, because they have to understand what we're trying to achieve so that they can actually, when they're going and looking at the quality of the product which is delivered, they can say, are you meeting that or not?
Yep, definitely agree. You cannot break something if you don't know how it works. So
right, yeah. Exactly. And so so that is very, very important. So QA is always in our meetings, and when we're discussing ideas, then we have QA, because QA will always come back and say, well, yeah, but have you thought about this piece of the functionality that may have an impact over there? So it's really important for them to be included in these discussions.
I have a question, but before we do that, is it time, Carlos, for the chat?
No. The chatbot right now is on holiday, away on vacation. It's revamping itself. It's revamping itself for next year. So right now, chatbot is at ease. However, and this is because we have time constraints, I'd like to ask a question, if I may. For KP. KP, well, as Tulio mentioned, I'm not an engineer, so my question is more leaning towards the business side of the equation.
Sure.
Amava, right? So what I'd like to know is what kind of partnership, so to speak, would you consider strategic to your growth, to Amava's growth, and why?
Yeah. So I mean. Huge numbers of partnerships, right? So there's tons of different partnerships. So just from a purely engineering perspective, right? So I mean, on the business side, there's partnerships which you can think of in healthcare, you can think of in in elder care, you can think of partnerships in insurance. In media, there's so many different kinds of partnerships which we have in mind, right? From an engineering perspective, and this is, coming back to what we're doing, people find this very surprising. And the reason why, Carlos, for example, I agreed to talk to you is because I've been doing, informal, people have been coming and asking, what have you been able to achieve? And, how do you set up your team and what have you, right? Our key partner is the company which actually supplies us with our engineers. So I have no full-time engineers. They're all contract engineers. People are surprised that we're able to go deliver the results we have with our contract engineers. Okay. In 3 years, we have not missed a single product deadline.
Okay.
We have had 0 unplanned outages. We had one last week, but that was because the hosting company misconfigured our servers, but nothing from a coding perspective, 0 unplanned outages. We've had 0% voluntary staff retention, attrition. Nobody has left the team.
Okay.
Well, that's fantastic. So what's the secret sauce?
I want to know.
So the secret sauce, in my view, is fundamental, going back to what we were talking about before, right? the secret sauce is I trust my engineers, and they repay me with their trust. Okay, when I hired them for a particular skill or whatever, and I said, look, I trust you. You will, if you make a mistake, come and tell me. It's fine. It's okay to make a mistake. It's not okay to make the same mistake 2 or 3 times. That's not okay. Okay, that means you're not paying attention, but it's okay to make a mistake. And so then they take it on themselves. They're harder on themselves than I am ever going to be on them. And so that, even the organization to which they belong, they're employees of a different company, but they feel so loyal to Amava and our mission and what we're doing that even when they go on vacation, they take their laptops with them because they say, if you need me, call me, because I want to make sure that nothing actually goes wrong with what we've done. And that for me is gold. And that just comes from the fact that I just trust them. And yes, if they make a mistake or whatever, I'm hard on them. I hold them accountable, but I never make it so that they feel, well, I don't want to work in this organization, or I don't want to work for this person anymore.
Great. So trust and supporting and believing in the team.
Right.
Those things never go out of style. We're coming up on time soon. It's amazing how times fly. I had one question about how you're structured. Are you an agile shop or Kanban? Is there any methodology you've adopted that works better for you, or not? Just curious.
Sure. No, it's a very good question, because people get asked, what are the tools you use, right? So I'll tell you what the tools I started with. The tools I started with were a Google spreadsheet. That's it. And the idea was I wanted to keep the process as simple as possible, because engineers should be writing code. I didn't want them spending a lot of their time doing other stuff on tools and admin work. So just focused on what is the minimum process which I can impose on top of whatever they're doing, so that it becomes very, very lightweight. The result is I have to do more work, but that's okay, because my code is what I'm doing from a coding perspective is less important than what they're doing. So I want to maximize their time in doing what they're supposed to do. So we kept our tools very simple. Yes, we're agile. We have a call every day. My engineers are based in India. One of them is based in Singapore, and I have a call with them every day. Right, so I talk to them. And each day we're kind of looking at, okay, what we're going to do today. But I also take the time at least once, if not twice a week, to tell them what we're thinking of in terms of the longer term. Always reconnecting them to what's the mission of what we're trying to do. And I find that is really, really important, and to keep them engaged, to keep them in the framework of what what the organization is about.
That's great. We encourage the concept of what we call no code monkeys, right? We want people who can think and act and work independently and contribute and understand the business impact they're having. Right. Sounds like you've got it figured out. So congratulations on that.
Thank you. I don't think I figured it out. I think I just blundered into it. It was
well, it's working. It's working. So kudos to you. So I have one question. I'm going to pass it back to my co-host.
Mm-hmm.
Any words of wisdom in your journey as an entrepreneur and as a startup executive? Any words of wisdom you'd like to share with other folks who might be on the fence about trying to be an entrepreneur or starting a new company or a new product? Mm-hmm. Love to get your perspective on what the journey's been like for you and things you've learned that you want to share with the audience.
Yeah, so a couple of, I think 2 things which I have learned, in the school of hard knocks of being an entrepreneur, right? The first is that if you have an idea, you have to believe in yourself in that idea. There's 1,000 reasons why something will not work. Okay, and you will find enough people who will come and tell you, here are the 1,000 ways in which your idea is not going to work. But you have to believe that in your idea if you have that idea. But along with that, there's another thing which I have learned is it's not enough just to be deeply involved. You have to be obsessive about what you're doing. Morning, evening, and night. I dream of nothing else. This is the only thing when I wake up in the morning, this is what I'm thinking about. When I go to bed, this is what I'm thinking about. You have to obsess, because that's the only way you focus all of your energy and you channel all of your capability into what you're doing. Because then you start thinking of all the little things which are really important to make your business a success. So those are the two things which I would think are really important. If you want to be an entrepreneur, the rest is all just fluff. And these two things are within your control. You have to believe in yourself, and you have to obsess about what you're doing.
Thank you, KP. It's been a pleasure talking with you. Wish we had more time. I'm going to pass it back to, is it Mariel who's going to wrap it up, or Carlos?
Well, Mariel is going to wrap it up, but I have an announcement to make.
Okay, great.
Okay. Yeah, this is about next week, folks. Next week, we are going to be having a conversation on DojoLIVE with Ben Block, the CEO of a company called DH Travel Services, which essentially it's about travel technology, travel software. So you might want to keep an eye on that. And the topic is going to be reimagining the travel agent, tour operator, digital relationship. So that should be interesting as well if you're into travel tech. And again, it's going to be on Monday, 1 p.m. Pacific. See you here on DojoLIVE, dojo.nearsoft.com. See you here next time, Mariel. And then, Mariel, back to you for wrapping up. Thank you.
Well, thank you, KP, for being with us.
Thank you for having me.
Just a comment on the last part. Believing in yourself and getting obsessed. I think that's a really great lesson, not just for business, but for life itself. Thank you very much. And well, this was just another session for DojoLIVE. Join us next week.
Next week. Bye, folks.
Thank you.
Bye.